Welcome or welcome back or whatever. And big old howdy to you. The Leitner and Laz show will, for the second time in its 2.5 months of existence, will not be with the former linebacker of Penn State University, the San Diego Chargers, the Detroit Lions, and the Green Bay Packers, that Jim Laslavic, because he is on vacation. And so we'll have our first co-host of this time. The guy's taking a vacation. Now, I don't mean to be selfish in all this, but I was in a situation professionally where, and not complaining because I loved it. I love my work, and you know that Asian expression that you find something you love and you and do it, and you never work a day in your life. That's me. That's me. But Jim's gone for 6 weeks. I thought, good God, who gets 6 weeks vacation? Retired guys with money from NBC stock and an NFL pension and NFL pay for 10 years he did that. So yeah, he can do that, and he and Susan deserve that. And so they're on vacation. And so those young, wonderful mustachioed pictures you saw of number 54, Jim Laslavic, on the open to this podcast, he will not be here, and we'll start with the co-host. I was in a little traveling last week, and my favorite part of that particular traveling, as you know, having done so much of it with the Aztec football, basketball, and the Padres for 41 years, and then the Clippers when they played here, and the Philadelphia Eagles back in that time in Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. A lot of travel. So I go to Newark, which is a state to begin with. Why would anyone want to go to Newark? There was an old time radio comedian named Fred Allen, and his definition of Detroit was two Newarks. Now, if that's not bad enough, you've got the ATC, the air traffic control, that's all backed up, antiquated systems, terrible. So Newark's lousy to begin with. So we get there, nice flight. We're on the edge of a thunderstorm over Newark, and they divert us to Dulles Airport in Washington, where we go into the terminal and spend 7 hours, count them, 7 hours, waiting to go right back to where we were, another hour back to Newark. And then I had to make my way down to the Jersey Shore to see my brother who has Alzheimer's, which is I won't even get into that. I don't want the show to be a downer. Part of it you may think is a downer, and it won't be. It won't be, because the co-host is anything but a downer in terms of his talent, his sense of humor, and so forth. I saw a clip of The Sopranos on YouTube the other day. And in that conversation, Tony Soprano, as guys are talking about old times, all the mafia guys are talking about old times. And Tony Soprano looks at him and says, remember when is the lowest form of conversation. And I've never heard that. I've never heard that. Because I think when you're in sports, remember when is a tremendous part of what we as sports fans love. And talking about our heroes, and talking about, you see that game where Gale Sayers scored 5 touchdowns and this guy did that, and Junior had so many tackles, and Junior had that interception against Elway when they're marching down the field, and Elway whiffs on it and the ball goes right to Junior, and the Chargers win that ball game in Denver. Remember when is not a low form of conversation to me. It's a beautiful form, and parents do it all the time. Remember when Billy was only 7 and he did this and that? I think, hey, Tony Soprano, he doesn't write his own lines. That was David Chase, the creator and main writer for The Sopranos. But I heard that and thought, no, it's not. No, it's not. So we will have some Remember When today for all of us and all of you, because during this program last week, when I was on the road doing the program from New Jersey, about midway through, our producer, Joe Nelson, came on and said, as Laz and I talked, sorry to interrupt you guys, but we've lost Billy Ray Smith. And that's like, as they say, getting hit by a bag of nickels. And this is not just a football player. This was not just a great football player. Guy was a force of nature, just as big as all outdoors, could fill a room with a smile as big as that stadium he played with in Mission Valley. And we're all hurting still a week later. So I'm sorry. 64 for anyone is just too damn young. This was a young man. So we will reminisce and play Remember When today, and there's no one better to have than the man who, and I've been here a long time in this community, and I've been on and guested on the great radio morning shows of Hudson and Bauer that I was on for 20 some years, on Jeff and Jer, who were just terrific, Shelley and Chainsaw, and Scott and BR. And to talk about Billy Ray Smith Jr. is Scott Kaplan, the Scott part of Scott and BR, who is still in broadcasting. That's not easy to be these days. It's difficult to be in broadcasting because Scott and I had our careers when, as we say, radio was radio. Now, I don't know what the hell radio is, but it ain't what it was. And now Scott and I are doing podcasts because we still want to be in broadcasting because we love it. Scotty, how the heck are you, bud?
Uncle, my uncle. Oh my God, it's so good to see you.
Oh,
I'm
I don't
so
hear
glad
Scotty.
you're podcasting.
I don't hear Scotty.
Oh,
Please,
no.
to God. I'm praying
Oh,
to the.
please, God.
I'm not praying to God over something that's minimal. I'm praying to the tech gods.
Yeah,
The
we
tech
were
gods
fine.
don't like me, and I have a lot of problem with that. So we'll work on getting Scott. And it's during these times when broadcasters' lives flash before them and wonder, are we going to have this? Or am I going to talk for 1 hour by myself? Which is okay. I've done that many, many times in my career. I was born with, as doctors say, diarrhea of the mouth. So
Let's see if this works.
it's never been a problem. Scotty, keep talking. We'll try to
Yep.
get you in here.
Let's see if this is going to work for us.
It's live. What can I tell you? That's
What can you do? It's live.
that's live broadcasting.
Yeah, it
And
is.
Scott and I were talking 10 minutes ago,
Right.
trying to get ready to go on the air
Yep.
and discussing our lives,
Yeah,
our
everything was fine a few minutes ago.
wives, our divorces, stuff like that. But I can't hear Scott. But then again, life's not fair. Not in sports, not in podcasts. And what are you going to do? What's fascinating to me, what Scott and I did talk about, is that parenthetically, all my friends and people I've worked with, whether it's Padres, Aztecs, or Channel 8 and so forth, radio, television, they knew how much I loved Ray Charles, even though I never met Ray Charles. I met his manager, Joe Adams. If you ever saw a Ray Charles concert, that incredible voice, if God had a voice and spoke to us, it would sound like Joe Adams. And I met his Ray Charles's executive assistant, Valerie Irvin, who gave me tours of his studios and offices and all that stuff. But I never met Ray Charles. I had opportunities to do so, but I never did. And I regret that sincerely, but I didn't want to impose on the man with someone he doesn't know because I knew mutual friends of his and mine. But when he died, I heard from so many people saying, "Hey, we're sorry, Ted. We know how you felt about Ray Charles." And I would say, "Well, no, this is not a friend even or a relative. This is just someone I love." "Yeah, but we know how much you admired him overcoming being poor and black and in Jim Crow South and blind as a child and overcoming what he did in music and business and leaving $100 million. And all those condolences came to me. In this case, the condolences in San Diego came to Kim, his wife of over 30 years, and his daughter Savannah, but they went to Scott Kaplan because Scott was like a brother from a different mother because they worked together for so long on the then mighty 1090 when radio was radio. And so Scott has been down himself very, very into that whatever stages of that where they talk about stages of grief. And we'll find out, hopefully, what stage Scott is in now because
I'm here.
I do not hear him as he's been on so many interviews with newspapers and radio interviews. I know he was on PBS because I heard part of that one, and many others around the country who knew of Billy Ray Smith and his great football play, both at the University of Arkansas, high school football before that, University of Arkansas, and then 10 years with the San Diego Chargers that all of us who saw and will always remember and will always play Remember When.
Yep.
They surely will.
Yep. Teddy,
Joe, we got any audio? You got any audio?
Still don't have me, huh?
No audio.
Everything was fine before we came
Scotty,
on the air. Yeah.
Can't hear you.
I know. That's crazy. I know.
I hate technology, though it's remarkable.
Yeah.
But I still hate it because it hates me. There's a black cloud that follows me everywhere I go on technology. And I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. I had gone, by the way, speaking of technology, I had gone to a friend of mine is on the original test driving board of Tesla. And I am not a fan of Elon Musk. I think you probably know that if you know my politics. And the things he did with Doge and the cuts of many things, many that have killed people in Africa as we cut off aid and AIDS medicine, food, and other prenatal care medicines. And they have speculated in the International Red Cross that move to eliminate USAID that Trump and Musk did have killed 700,000 men, women, and children in Africa. So no, I'm not a fan of Elon Musk, but his engineers and his brilliance are such that a friend of mine on that Tesla driving board said, you ought to go. You're getting old and your eyesight's weak. We ought to go look at a self-driving Tesla." So we went to a dealership and sat there, and the woman said, "You want to take a test drive?" I said, I don't really want to, but my friend here wants me to. And she took out her phone and she punched in or clicked summon. And looking out the back window of the dealership, a Tesla backed out of its space, empty, of course, backed out of its space, drove around all through the windows and came to a stop at the front door. And we all got in and they pressed self-drive, what they call FSD, full self-drive, and it just started driving around. I mean, I've been alive when many things have been invented, from space travel. We didn't have refrigerators when I was a little boy, and there was no frozen food. There was no there were no freezers, let alone refrigerators. And I've been a lot space travel, the internet, computers. I've lived through all this. Television, the invention of television, then color television, and now, wow, truly amazing that a car drives by itself.
I'm blown
But
away
since
by
I
it too.
hate Elon Musk, we'll end the story there. But it's like science fiction, man. It's like inventions of sliced bread, the jet engine, and the internet, and all the information available, and then the information highway. But a car, if you thought during my lifetime, coming and being born in 1947, that cars would drive themselves, and the talk now is, of flying cars, I would say, yeah, right, flying cars. But now that I see what that car can do, it's unbelievable. It's just crazy.
Uncle,
Just
can you hear me
crazy.
yet?
But I'm
Can
a
you hear me now?
convertible guy. I'm just a convertible guy all my
Okay.
life. And I got out here to Southern California and I've had convertibles my entire life. Tesla don't make no convertible. End of story.
Uncle Teddy,
Scotty,
can you
can
hear
you
me
hear
now?
me? Shake your
I
head
can
if you
hear
can hear me.
I can hear you. Can you hear me, Uncle? Can you
Oh
hear me,
man,
Uncle
this is
Teddy?
just kicking my butt.
Oh, what a shame. This is terrible. What a shame.
Oh man, oh man, oh man. From now on, Joe, you got to be here with me because it has to be somehow it has to be my fault. So I need somebody to hold my hand and do this.
This is not your fault. Hopefully,
And
you can hear me.
if Scott can be heard by the audience, Joe,
Yeah. I can hear
Yeah.
you,
let him
Joe.
talk and you ask
Can
him
you hear
questions,
me,
and
Ted?
I'll
Can you hear
go
me?
Joe, I
walk
can hear
around
you.
or
Yep.
work out or in my garage or whatever. So if
Yeah.
he can do that, if you're hearing Scott and the audience is hearing Scott, then go ahead because I hear, as I've talked about one of the sponsors on this program, Beltone, which is now Starkey.
Nice
So
segue.
the Beltone of La Mesa at gmail.com. If you have hearing problems, I really got no hearing problem now because I have the great Starkey, just melodious and like a symphony orchestra, wonderful hearing aids, but I still need hearing aids. So those of you who don't and can hear Scott fine, it's not my hearing aids because I was hearing Scott, like I said, we were talking before we went on the air, supposed to go on the air. But if you need hearing aids, trust me, I've had others. No, I've had three different others from ear, nose, and throat specialists selling them, from a big box store selling them and servicing them. And that experience was not great for me. I'm not knocking them. Maybe it was great for you. But this, with Jason, who owns that and takes care of everyone with amazing bedside manner and amazing expertise, you hear Starkey and you'll never, ever need anything else for hearing problems. But this has turned out to be not a hearing problem because the sound would go right into my ears of these hearing aids that I have now. But that's not the case. So Scott, if they can hear you, you and Joe talk, and I'll go away because I want this discussion about the great Billy Ray Smith Jr. to go on, or else we'll schedule it for next week. One of those two decisions, and Joe, as the producer, will have to make that decision. So you guys let me know.
Well, Joe, can you hear me? Because
I'm going to drink. I have a hemlock on the rocks.
I can hear you.
Quick drink
The viewers can hear you.
Yeah.
as
Just
my
once
life
we went
continues to
live,
flash in front of me.
I'm going to tell you that I think Ted maybe has the volume down on his computer.
but we were talking to him before we came on.
Yeah,
Says I'm
that
in the
is true.
show.
That is true.
Says
That is
everyone can
true.
hear and see you.
Yeah. So it says I can see here, Joe, in our YouTube chat.
Can
that
I
people
ask
can hear everybody.
Joe? Can I ask Scott questions?
Yeah, go for it.
If he
Ted.
can hear me, going to ask him questions, and then he'll give the answer, and
Yeah.
then you give me a thumbs up when
Oh,
he's done,
boy.
and I won't be able to hear Scott, but I do want to ask him stuff. Starting with, since you guys can hear me and I can't hear a damn thing, Scotty. First of all, because I sent you a text because we had talked. What was amazing and it's almost goosebump. Like Robert Klein used to say, "Ooh," that things were really weird. The comedian. I called Scott before my show in New Jersey with Laz last week to talk about podcasts and get recommendations and advice. And in that conversation with Scott, I said, "How's BR? How's BR?" Because I had seen him at an Aztec basketball game. He and Kimberly were sitting up above me, and I saw when I looked over at halftime, I saw Kimberly, so I walked over and hugged Kimberly, and then I put my hand out to Billy Ray, which I don't normally do because when he shakes your hand, I remembered through my life, he will crush the metacarpal bones of your hand because he was so strong and so tough, and part of what made him great. And but he looked at me, and I can see in his eyes he didn't know who I was. I'm pretty sure of that. And I thought, oh man, we lost Junior with CTE. We cannot lose Billy Ray. And now we have. Scott, we talked last week before the show, and then I find out during the show that he's gone. It's been a hell of a time for you, hasn't it?
It has been a rough week, I will say, Ted. I know you're having a hard time hearing me, but for everybody that's tuning in right now, flattered to be invited. Number one, always happy to be with my uncle. That's number two. But it was a week ago. You and I are on a call, and I can just tell you that I was driving from LA back to San Diego. I was driving back from Rams training camp. Billy Ray and I used to love, love, love going to Charger training camp. So for me, even though the Chargers are no longer in San Diego, even though they've been practicing here the last couple of days, and I will admit, a very, very classy move by the Chargers to put Billy Ray's initials BR on the back of the helmet. And what they did yesterday before practice was all very nice. I don't know that they're going to keep that BR on the back of the helmet all season long, or if when they go back to practice in LA, but for at least 2 days, I thought it was a very classy move. But you and I were driving, I was driving, we were talking, and I was telling you that Billy Ray's condition had gotten worse, and I knew that, and I knew it wasn't going to be much longer. His condition was going down. He was not living, unfortunately, at that point. He was literally dying, and it just killed me to know. In fact, his sisters sent me a picture just the other day because I went to the track on Sunday with Kimberly, Billy Ray's sisters, and his mother-in-law, because the track did a great job of a tribute to Billy Ray. And they showed me pictures from Thanksgiving of last year. And they literally sent me these pictures on the phone. And I looked at them and I turned away like, I that's not Billy Ray. I can't even see him. In fact, I looked at the last picture that I had of him, and I knew that was the last time we were ever going to see each other because I knew he didn't know who I was anymore. And it was very, very painful, not for me. I mean, it was for him. It was very painful. He wouldn't have wanted to have been seen in that condition. And I frankly it just didn't feel good. I could look into his eyes and I could know that all of that stuff that was inside of his mind was long gone. I used to be able to say to Billy Ray, "Hey, Billy Ray, tell me about the state championship game in Texas Stadium in 1979. He would right away, "Man, on third down from the goal line, we had a fumble. We picked it up. We went the other way." I mean, he had every detail. And Coach Kimbrough, that was his coach, he'd say, "Billy Ray, you need to get in there and make this play, Billy Ray." And like he would know the coach's name. He would have the dialect. He had every detail. And he didn't have any of that anymore. I could say to him, "Billy Ray, 1987, you intercept John Elway, pick six, you take it to the house. Tell me about that play." He could tell you every detail of who was on the field and what was happening, and all of that was gone. So, for me, what's very sad about all of this is, yes, 64 is too young, but what gave him his life, what gave him his identity, what gave him fame locally, wealth locally, what gave him all of those things, robbed him of 20 years. Football gave him this life, and football stole 20 years. And Teddy, I'll just tell you this. I know you can't really hear me, but I'll just tell you this. I can remember so vividly Billy Ray and I sitting at a commercial break in the radio station at 1090. And I said to Billy Ray, "What are you doing, man? Why are you suing the NFL? It seems ridiculous to me." And he said, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "What do you mean ridiculous?" I go, "Billy Ray, you're fine, man." I go, "You loved playing in the NFL. You loved being an NFL player. Your dad was an NFL player. You love being a Charger. You love being in the NFL. Why would you sue the organization that made you who you are?" And he said to me then, he said, "Because I don't know for sure what I'm going to be like 10 years from now, and I got to make sure my family is taken care of." And as I look back on that conversation now, which I remember so vividly, it reminds me something I didn't know then, but I think I know now, which is Billy Ray knew. When he sued the NFL, he knew, because he looked in the mirror every day. He knew something wasn't right. He knew his memory wasn't right. I talked to Dan Fouch just the other day, and Dan said, you know, at the end of his career, Billy Ray's broadcasting career, they would do Charger preseason games together. And Dan would be talking about the offense and what's going to happen, and they'd go over to Billy Ray, and Billy Ray would do a lot of chuckling, a lot of laughing. And it was because he didn't have much to say, because he didn't really remember a whole lot of stuff. So everybody loved Big Jolly Billy Ray, but at that point, he just couldn't remember anything. It was just incredibly sad to watch a guy 64 years old who, for the last 4 or 5 years of his life, rather than living life, rather than enjoying his age, his wife, his daughter, her husband, instead of enjoying all of these things, he really was not living over the last 4 or 5 years. A terrible, terrible shame. It's been really hard to deal with, obviously, Ted. But listen, I will say I felt better going over to Kimberly's house last Thursday night, Billy Ray and Kim's house, having dinner with the family. It was just 5 of us. Savannah, her husband Nate, who Billy Ray would see, and he'd go, "Wow, he's a big old rascal. This guy's like 6'10", played at Georgia Tech and then played down at Florida Gulf Coast. In fact, played on the Florida Gulf Coast team, I believe, that knocked San Diego State out of the tournament. This is whatever year it was. And Billy Ray's wife, obviously Kimberly, and her mom, Vesta. And just the 5 of us sat around telling stories. And it was mostly me telling them stories of things they didn't know. So it made me feel a lot better. I was able to get back on the radio on Friday. I went to training camp at the Rams on Saturday. I took Billy Ray's trading card and sat it next to my computer and said, "You big old rascal, we're gonna hang out and we're gonna go to training camp together." But I still can't believe it, Ted. It's been a week and I'm rambling at this point, Joe. Back to you, Ted.
Hey, Scott, can I interrupt you?
Yeah,
Scott, I can't hear you, so I want to ask you a question, and if it's redundant over what you said, because I can't hear it, but it's important to me. I know you've gone through grief. The entire family's gone through grief. The entire community has gone through grief, as they say, those stages of grief and so forth. Are you mad? Because I'm mad, and I've been this way ever since the concussion and the CTE thing began with the National Football League. And the Dr. Ann McKee at Boston University, who came up with the idea of CTE and the cumulative repeated concussions. And what makes me mad is that the National Football League and its billions and billions and billions of dollars, all they could worry about, I'm sure, in their board meetings were, whoa, we got to really come up with something to tap this down, or we're going to have to pay a lot of money. And so we need to get with our doctors and have them lie for us and put out, as they did. There is no evidence whatsoever medically that concussions have any impact on players long-term or any long-term brain injuries. Wrong, wrong, wrong. And they just tried to discredit Dr. McKee, and she's not even in this field. She knows nothing about this, and they discredited her, trying to take apart her credentials like you would at a trial of the show that she's not really a good expert. She doesn't know anything. So attack her career, attack her credentials, and so forth. And no. There's no way concussions are, and she doesn't know what she's talking about. That sort of crap. And now I see an NFL game, and it's play football and be safe. We're concerned about our players in the National Football League. Bullshit. No, you're not. That makes me mad because our friend is gone.
Yeah, so it's interesting because Billy Ray used to joke all the time about, well, I got hit in the head too many times. That's why I don't remember. And it was a joke and it was funny until it wasn't funny anymore. Once he joined the concussion lawsuit, the days of joking around about being hit in the head and not having any memory, it was over for us. In fact, Ted, I can tell you, I spent, without an exaggeration, I mean, hours and hours and hours. If I had to take a guess, I don't know, it could have been 50, could have been 100 hours. I don't know what the number is. But I spent hours and hours and hours as a witness on Billy Ray's case. So the NFL attorneys would depose me or interrogate me. I don't know the exact legal definitions at the time. And the side that was representing Billy Ray would also, depose me. And again, this took days and days and days, and I was giving up tons of hours of my time. But the reason I was doing it is because Billy Ray was smart enough to jump into the NFL concussion lawsuit, and it was my responsibility to help him and help his family by telling both sides what the truth of the matter was. And the truth is that as Billy Ray, as the years had gone on, he was not as capable of doing the job. And the only reason we know that is because of how absolutely brilliant he was as a performer. He was funny. He was prepared like nobody's business. He was witty. He was smart. He was full of life. And then all of a sudden, as the years started to go on, he wasn't any of those things anymore. He couldn't keep up as well. He if it was Monday, he might say to me, "Who did the Chargers play yesterday? I don't remember." It was like that. He would walk around the office and he would ask people, "Hey, what time are we supposed to be here?" And people would come to me and they go, "Why is he asking me? I don't know. It has nothing to do with me." And so we started to see this happening, unfortunately. And as far as being mad, I'm not as angry as I thought I would be, because I will tell you that for years we would go to the Super Bowl and we'd go on Radio Row, and Mike Ditka and Kyle Turley would walk around all these old players that were having concussion-related problems, and they wanted to expose this problem, and they wanted to raise money to help these old guys. And I admit, I was not as compassionate back then as I should have been, because I was working with Billy Ray and he was brilliant. So to me, I didn't feel like they needed my pity or my compassion. Now here today we are, Billy Ray's gone, Junior's gone, both for the same reason. Thank goodness Billy Ray had the support system of Kimberly and his daughter and his in-laws and his family members who loved him and were there to treat him in a dignified way. Whereas unfortunately for Junior, he had, a broken marriage at this point. He had certain relationships that weren't as strong with his kids, according to my understanding. He had a group of friends that hung on that couldn't really tell him the truth about what was going on in his life and wouldn't intervene, again, as I understand it. And so Junior did not have the support system that Billy Ray had, so that Billy Ray could be ushered to the finish line with dignity. Unfortunately for Junior, his didn't end that way. I'm upset that, because I get a lot of this from people. I'm name dropping here, but I was with Eric Dickerson of the Rams up in LA about a week and a half ago at a Rams event. And I told him, "Hey man, Billy Ray's not well." And he knows Billy Ray because they played high school football against each other way back when. And I said, "Billy Ray's not doing well." And Eric Dickerson is so mad at the NFL for not properly taking care of the veteran players and their families, especially when they played at a time where, truth be told, a lot of these guys were all steroided up. They were playing with inferior equipment. They were blasting into each other. They were celebrating the violence. We all loved it. That's why they had these NFL films, celebrating the violence. And now here's a guy who's 64 years old who should have another 20 years of his life at least, because he was young and he was healthy and he was strong and he was in great shape. He should have had 20 more years. But the only reason I think that I'm not really angry is because here's one thing I know about Billy Ray. He may have only had 64 years. And maybe if I was being realistic, maybe he only had 60 years. But the fact is, this guy was happy, and I mean really happy, every day of his life. He was happy that his father told him as a kid, "You're going to be a great football player." He was happy that he got to San Diego. He was happy that he married Kimberly. He was happy that he had Savannah. He was happy that he had the career that he had, not just in football, but after football. He was happy that people knew him, liked him, and he loved people. So the thing is, as much as I would love for him to have had those 20 years, he lived very, very, very happily for the number of years that he got. All right, Joe.
Hey, Scott, let me ask because I can't hear you. And if you covered it, then just do it in a different way.
Yeah.
But I mentioned our anger. Our anger. You probably went into this. I don't know. Billy Ray, did he have anger? Was he angry to the point of, first of all, he knew what was going on for these how many years it has been. When you dedicate your brain to Dr. McKee and as Junior did at Boston University to study this, so it can help other football players, young guys that Billy Ray does not know, but he wants to make sure they get helped if he can help them like Junior did, and let's study that brain and find ways to eliminate or lessen the impact of these injuries in football and sort of thing. So my concept and question is, was he mad? Was it Scott? I wish I never. God damn it! I wish I never played football. This is driving me nuts. It's going to impact Kimberly and Savannah, my family. I wish I'd never played. I'm so angry. Was there any of that from BR?
Not that I ever saw, Ted. Not, in fact, everybody would ask him the same question. Would you do it all over again? And his answer was, hell yes, I would do it all over again. Billy Ray grew up in Plano, Texas, where playing high school football, that was Friday Night Lights. That was playing in front of 45,000 people in, Texas Stadium where the Cowboys played. Billy Ray played in front of massive crowds in high school. And then at the University of Arkansas, he loved it. He loved big games against Texas. He loved the old Southwestern Conference. He loved playing at the same school that his dad played at and continuing on their family legacy. And then Billy Ray loved playing in the NFL. He loved being a Charger. He loved representing San Diego. So as many times as I would say to him, well, now that, you're starting to feel some effects of football, would you have done anything differently? He lived for it, man. He lived for the game of football. He was raised on the game of football. He thought of Friday Night Lights. He thought of college football glory. He wanted to win a Super Bowl. He loved being an NFL player. So as angry as I want to be, the only thing that makes me not angry, even though I feel like he's been robbed of 20 years of his life, is he was the happiest guy of anybody I knew. And he would have done it all over again because the dude loved football.
Hey, Scott, I apologize for this, for putting you through this and the audience through this. I'm so pissed.
Don't worry about it. Shit happens,
But
man.
because I really look forward not just talking to you about BR, but you and I through the years have uh, talked endlessly about our fathers. Compared notes. Who was worse? Who was cheaper? Who was tougher? Who was all this? Who drove us crazier? And we've had that. And I told you I had the same thing with Jerry Lewis, who I got not to drop names, but who lived here, as you know, on his boat, the Pussycat, down by the Marriott Marina. And so he would come up and sit with Jerry Coleman and I during the Padre games. And we talked and we talked and we talked about our fathers. And he had the same situation where his father never praised him, always put him down. And Scott and I had the same kind of a thing, plus the cheapness on top of that. So that's my long segue, because I'm so disappointed we can't go back and forth and tell this stuff. Could be very funny stuff, which we need when we're having a show about someone who we miss and who's gone. But my thought, which I've never talked much and never talked to BR about, was his father, who I'm sure most people know that it was Billy Ray Smith Jr., that Billy Ray Smith Sr. was a terrific defensive tackle, bigger than BR at 6'4" and 240, and was just like Billy Ray, All-American at Arkansas, and drafted not as high as BR, not in the first round like BR, but drafted by the Rams and went to the Steelers, and then had his great part of his career on the defensive line with Bubba Smith at Michigan State with Baltimore, the Baltimore Colts. And Billy Ray Smith Sr. was an ass-kicking, big-time defensive tackle. How well did they get along? What was it like for Billy Ray to be with a father like that? What kind of relationship did they have? Clearly, those great genes, from an athletic standpoint, BR got from the big fella.
Well, I'll tell you this, Ted. One of the things I learned that Billy Ray very much taught me, and it was that his father would tell Billy Ray, you are going to be a football star. You're going to play high school football and you're going to win a state championship. You're going to go to college and you can play at Arkansas just like I did, and you can be an All-American. You can be an Outland Trophy finalist. You can be, Playboy All-American back then and first-round draft choice. You will be a football star, Billy Ray. And you know what else his father did, Billy Ray Sr.? He would look over at Billy Ray's older brother, Bruce, and he'd say, Bruce, you're going to go to West Point. You're going to serve in the Army. You are going to become a colonel in the U.S. Army, and you're going to have a decorated military career. And so Billy Ray Sr. very much told both of his sons what they're capable of doing. He never said to them, you'll never be a good football player, or you'll never go to West Point, or you'll never be able to be a colonel in the Army, or you'll never be a first-round draft choice. The opposite is true. Billy Ray Sr. told Billy Ray Jr. and Billy Ray's older brother, Bruce, every day what they are capable of becoming. And both of those guys became what their father predicted that they would. But it really wasn't a prediction. It was more about how he empowered them to believe that they could become what they wanted to be, or maybe what he wanted them to be. But there was never any doubt that they were going to do it, because Dad kept giving them this encouragement that they could or that they would. But one thing about Billy Ray, Ted, he would always have really great parenting advice. And I was much younger, and I had much younger children. And I'll never forget when Billy Ray's daughter, I believe, was a senior in high school, and she was at the Bishop School in La Jolla. So they had made sure that with one child, we were going to get her the best education, and we were going to give her the best opportunity to be super successful in life. So she goes to Bishop's, and it's a very expensive private school, and then she's accepted to Cornell University. And I remember saying to Billy Ray one day, I said to Billy Ray one day in the studio, I said, Billy Ray, don't you worry at all that your daughter went to Bishop's and now she's going to Cornell and she's not really going to deal with what real life is? And he dropped this pearl of wisdom on me when he said this. He said, Scotty, the job of a parent is to make sure your kid never knows what real life is. And I was just blown away thinking about what he was saying, which was, listen, I knew how I grew up. Okay. And I knew how my father grew up before me. And I certainly knew how my grandfather grew up before him. We didn't grow up around money or privilege or fame or notoriety or anything. But what Billy Ray was saying was, if you can keep your kid in a safe environment, good schools, good education, good job or business, if you can steer your child the way his father steered Billy Ray into football or his brother into a military career, if you can steer your child in that direction and they're successful, they'll never know what real life is. And I just thought that was amazing. Joe's putting up a picture right now. This is a picture that me and my 4 kids took. Everybody's laughing at me. They say, you guys look like a beautiful couple, you and Billy Ray, and you've adopted these 4 beautiful children. That picture, by the way, Ted, my daughter, I know you can't hear me, but if you go back and watch this, my daughter took that picture, put it in a frame, because she, at 19 years old, didn't know.
Awesome.
She didn't know what to do. And how to, and she said to me, Dad, I didn't realize
I'm
Billy Ray was such
trying
a
to
big
gauge,
deal.
Scotty. When I can't see, my eyes. I'm so old. My eyes are not good enough to see you, whether you're talking or not. So I'm watching your hand. When your hand stops, I try to. That's what I think, because I don't want to interrupt you, but I'm sure I am.
No, you go.
And go in there and do that. And Scott and I, by the way, since I mentioned that, not to leave you hanging, but I'll do mine. I told Scotty that if with my father around, if you wrote on a piece of scrap paper and then threw it out, smack, as in, hey, right on the other side, not make money here for paper. I threw right on the other side of a piece of scrap paper, and when we opened up presents, a birthday present or whatever, you couldn't rip it open. It was wrapped up. You could not rip it open. You had to take the tape and pull it out, and so we could reuse the wrapping paper for the next holiday event or what have you, or gift, or you get screamed at or a smack or whatever, a Joe Frazier left hook. Now Scotty will come back. Take me to McDonald's, Scotty. That's my favorite.
well, my father will deny this story till the day he dies, and I will completely tell him, you're lying to yourself. my father and I, it's probably the early 80s. I'm going to say 82, 83. We go into the McDonald's in our neighborhood. I look up at the board at that time, hamburger 39 cents, cheeseburger 49 cents. So I order a cheeseburger. My father literally looks at me and says, "No, you'll get the hamburger. You'll put cheese on it when you get home." And I'm like, "No, I don't want to put cheese on it when I get home, Dad." And I remember saying to him, I go, "Dad, is 10 cents that much money that we're going to save the money from a hamburger to a cheeseburger?" And my father will hear me tell this story, Ted. I swear to you it's true. And he will deny it for the rest of his life. Back to you.
See, this is what I look at. I can't hear Scott, but I'm laughing because I know the story, and I just that we go on and on about whose father was worse. Whose father was worse? And the thing with Jerry Lewis is not just the cheapness. It was the put downs all the time. Because Jerry told me that when he'd flown his family out to Bel Air when he was big, it was after Dean Martin, that he had his own talk show, a 90-minute show, not a talk show, but a 90-minute variety show on ABC. He's making big bucks, so he flies his entire family out to Bel Air, buys him a house, fills it with furniture, and then for his father's birthday, a guy goes and buys him a Cadillac. Buys him a brand new Cadillac with a big bow on it, and has it delivered several blocks away where he bought his father's house. And so he didn't hear from him for a couple of hours. So he calls his father and he says, "Dad, happy birthday. Thanks. Did you get the car?" "Yeah." "Well, what do you think?" And his father says, "What, you couldn't get me a convertible?" He lived with that shit all his life. No matter what he
Wow.
did, it was never enough. And he went one time, he told me, to the Palladium Theater for a command performance after Dean Martin. It was just Jerry, for the Queen of England. And Jerry said, I killed, as comedians say, I killed. It was a great show. Had a full orchestra. I was dancing, doing the canes, all that stuff. And then I go in my dressing room. I hear a knock, knock, knock. And my father sticks his head in. And I'm taking my makeup off in the mirror. So I see my father in the mirror. He opens the door. He comes in. I said, "Dad, come in, come in." And I said, "Dad, now that's a show. That's as good as it gets." And my father says, "No, no, no. If you ever make it on Broadway, that'll be as good as it
Oh,
gets.
my God.
Never good enough. Never good enough." And I asked Jerry, obviously too bad, because you made it on Broadway with Damn Yankees, which he actually came here with in the Traveling Road Company, but he opened it on Broadway, but his father was gone. He never could tell him, "Okay, okay now, am I worth something? I'm worth something. I'm now, I'm now on Broadway." But it never stops. That stuff from fathers, especially from that generation, from ours, it just never stops.
Yeah. But you know, Billy Ray's dad was different. Billy Ray's dad told him, "You will be a star football player, and you will be a top level military commander." And both of his sons turned out to be both of the things that the dad predicted. You know, Ted, the thing that I'm so excited about coming on with you today, and I realize that we're having a technical issue, but I just want to say that people will watch this live and people will watch this over the next couple of days. And the one thing that I really wanted to do, especially today, is I really wanted to tell everybody that this upcoming Monday is August 10th. August 10th would be Billy Ray's 65th birthday. And so, I can't help myself because as much as I was grieving over the course of the last week, I know that there are other people out there that are former Charger players, former executives with the team, fans of the team, radio listeners, TV viewers, just people who loved Billy Ray. And the thing is, they're sitting at home and they're hearing this news and they're upset and they're going to social media to express condolences and to share their love for Billy Ray. But what we haven't had as a community is a gathering of people who love Billy Ray and who would all like to be together to hug it out with one another. So on Monday, August 10th, and I would love it, Teddy, if you could come by, Monday, August 10th at the American Legion in Encinitas. And you may be asking yourself, why'd you pick the American Legion? Because it's down home. It's grassroots. It's the kind of place where Billy Ray would love to have an ice cold Coors Light and a BR burger. BR burgers, by the way, are cheeseburgers with jalapenos and barbecue sauce. And it's all Billy Ray ever ate anywhere we ever went. It was burger, jalapeno, barbecue sauce. So I've bought like 300 burgers. I hope I've got enough. Maybe I need more. Burgers, buns, jalapenos, barbecue sauce. I got a guy in the back who's going to be grilling them up and serving them up. There's no cost, obviously. I want everybody to come and enjoy. You can come inside the bar. We're going to be doing a live podcast where guys like Hank Bauer are going to stop by. Vincey Glenn wants to talk to us. John Carney would like to come on. Bill Johnston, who used to run the Chargers PR department, and so many others, and lots of fans who just are looking for a place to congregate to share the love with Billy Ray. And it's interesting because Kimberly will actually go back to work on Channel 10 that night. And their Channel 10 is sending a reporter to do live shots because she can't be there, but we want her presence to be there, obviously. And just, oh, by the way, we went to the track on Sunday. I took Kimberly and her family, and we went and we were in the winner's circle before the fourth race as they put up a big sign of Billy Ray on the Jumbotron. And we all stood there and we were holding back our tears as the track was honoring Billy Ray. And we were losing every race, Ted. We lost every race. We were losing money. We were losing every race. And we were just joking around, playing a little bit here and there. The last race, I said to Kimberly, I said, why don't we leave after this next race? She said, yeah, that's a good idea. So she looked at the race. The number one horse was called News at 10. That was the name of the horse, News at 10. And don't you know that horse won that race, and we all bet on that horse. And all of us sat there crying to ourselves like we lost every race, telling Billy Ray stories the entire afternoon, and leave it to a horse called News at 10 and Billy Ray to bring us this victory. And we all had a good laugh and a good cry. But last thing is Monday, August 10th would be Billy Ray's 65th birthday. I would love it if everybody would come out, have a BR burger, have an ice cold Coors Light. Chris Cantori, who so many people know from his old 91X days, he's going to spin records, Van Halen, Sammy Hagar, all of Billy Ray's favorite. And all of the inner circle of our great friends, Gary from Ego Trip, Fat Tony, everybody, John Browner, Alex Padilla, Linda Welby, everybody is contributing to make August 10th a special day to show Billy Ray all the love. Back to you, right after you sip that water.
Number 54. I know, incidentally, on the program last week, Jim Laslavic, after we had the announcement of BR's passing, Billy Ray told me, Jim Laslavic told me that he was always very honored because he had, of course, preceded Billy Ray Smith with the Chargers. And he was always very honored the fact that Billy Ray had taken that number 54 that Jim had worn during his several years with the Chargers. For those of you who may not know, and this is not about statistics and stuff like that. That's why Scott's the most important part of the program, of course, is that the relationships and with their great friends and the philanthropy that he and BR had done, raising so much money for so many people and so many needy people in San Diego. And Billy Ray was just like that, as Scott is and will continue to be on behalf of BR and himself. But this was for you don't know, those of you who don't know, maybe new to San Diego, first round pick, 5th overall in the draft, after 2 times the unanimous All-American at Arkansas. He still holds the Arkansas record for most tackles in a career. He was just a freak athlete with quickness and speed and toughness and strength and all that stuff. And his career with the Chargers, 26 and a half sacks, 15 interceptions, 14 fumble recoveries, and more than that. That's a Greek cliche, but Muhammad Ali, like he said, it's not a cliche if it's true. Billy Ray had a personality that could fill a locker room and could fill a broadcast studio and can fill the airwaves. It was just him. He wasn't that big. He was 6'3" and 228 during his playing days, and still looked like that after his playing days. But it was, as they say, great player, better person. And we are all, Scott, me, and I had a chance broadcasting the Charger games on radio in 85 and 86 when the big fella was still playing. I got to travel with him and get to know him then. And it is something I will cherish for the rest of my life. I had, parenthetically, Scotty, before we wrap up here a little early, a friend of mine in Minneapolis that I've known for 65 years. Brilliant guy, used to be a computer for Cray, supercomputer company, that kind of brain, doing software for supercomputers. And I talked to him Saturday, and he's in hospice. and he has days to live. And so we talked, and then his daughter texted me today and said that he was supposed to call you back after your conversation, a very tearful conversation last Saturday, but he can't speak. He's losing his motor skills, and he's had his last phone conversation. So I will say goodbye for you to him. And I said, typical guys, Heather, we cried on the phone together Saturday, but I never said I love you. And I've never said that to him, and he's never said that to me. And guys from our age and generation never do that. Tell me, Scotty, that you said that to this man either at the end, toward the end, during your time together when you said goodbye.
Yeah, Ted, we we were not bashful in telling each other, "Hey, I love you, you big old rascal." I would tell him that, and I would thank him all the time, because here's the thing. Again, you asked me earlier if I'm angry about the concussions and how the NFL treats these guys. I'm feeling more of a sense of gratitude right now than anything else, and here's why. Because when I got to San Diego, there was one guy. His name was Ted Leitner. And he was the obnoxious, opinionated, say whatever he wanted to kind of guy. But he was kind of one of one. When I got here, people said, "Oh, you're a lot like Leitner." And I said, "I don't know Leitner." But then I remember meeting you for the first time at Charger training camp. And then, of course, I had the thrill and the privilege to work with you for so many years and get to know you personally. And like you said, we share so many things between ex-wives and fathers. But you see, the thing is that I'm feeling this sense of gratitude right now, because here's what I really do know, Ted, that if it wasn't for Billy Ray, I would not be here today. Meaning, Billy Ray welcomed me to San Diego, put his arm around me, told the audience that already loved him and trusted him and had adored him as a player. He told everybody, "This is my guy. I love this guy. We have fun together on the air. He's my guy." So that made everybody in San Diego go, "Okay, he's kind of obnoxious and he's kind of opinionated, and oh my God, he's a bit of a pain in the ass. But the more I listen, the more I start to like him." But that was because Billy Ray gave me that love. And the fact of the matter is this: if it wasn't for the 20 years that we spent together, today, as I broadcast every morning, even though I'm on vacation this week, I broadcast every morning on ESPN in LA. And I never in a million years thought I'd be going to LA, not after 20 years in San Diego, but that opportunity presented itself because I met an executive in Miami at the Super Bowl, and my agent was there, and he was introduced me to this guy, and the guy said to me, he goes, "If you're so good, like your agent says, how come I've never heard of you?" And I said, "Well, I've been in San Diego for the last 20 years, and as much noise as I make, it's hard to get anybody to pay attention." And so he wound up coming, this executive went back to his office in Bristol, Connecticut, and he called the program director at ESPN LA. And he said to this woman at the time, he said, "You know who Scott Kaplan is?" And she goes, "Oh my God, Scott and BR. I listened to them every morning growing up, and now I listen to them in the afternoons." And he said, "Oh, you know who Scott Kaplan is?" And she goes, "Yeah, he's my favorite. I love this guy. He's awesome. He's in San Diego, but I listen to him in LA." This is what she tells me. So that's how I got the job at 710, is that Billy Ray and I were so successful, thank goodness, in San Diego, that people were listening in LA. One of them happened to have been the program director of ESPN LA. And when an ESPN executive who had no idea who I was called and said, "Have you ever heard of this guy?" she was like my biggest fan. So believe me when I tell you, I am so grateful to Billy Ray, because even now, with what I do now in Los Angeles, I'm only able to do because of the 20 years that he and I were together as teammates.
Hey, Scott, I apologize for the snafu. It's live television. You know that. It happens. Uh, Folks, just to make sure that you know that I know this, having been here almost 50 years, 50, in the San Diego community. I mentioned those Jeff and Jers and Shelley and Chainsaw and Hudson and Bauer, all those people. Scott Kaplan's one of the best performers in that group with them of all time
Oh,
in
thanks
San
for saying
Diego.
that, Ted.
And I did look so forward. I've been on his program for so many times of Scott and BR. I'm honored that that was the case, that they would have me on so many times. And as most of you may know, if not, I mentioned this at a speech to the San Diego History Society a month or so ago, and Scott was in attendance. I was privileged and thrilled that he was there. And I mentioned to the audience that this Uncle Teddy thing, not something I thought of to call myself or anything else. It was strictly Scott Kaplan, who, when I would come on late in my career, still with the Padres and so forth, he would introduce me every time as, "Here's Uncle Teddy, everybody's uncle in San Diego." And you talk about one man having the media power to put a nickname on someone, and everyone, for the most part, in that community, certainly all the sports fans, knew when you said Uncle Teddy, you knew who it was because of Scott Kaplan. So I'm always indebted to him for that. If you do it yourself for yourself, it's egotistical and stupid and vain. But when somebody else does it, it's an honor. And I've been on your show on Scott and BR, but I never did one with you, like a co-host situation. So I looked forward to this so much, to tell jokes and have laughs. But the most important thing is that even with the snafu, they got to hear you talk about him. You know why, Scott? You ever see the movie Powder? Not a
Yeah.
big hit, but it
Yeah.
was about the kid who was an albino. They
Mhm.
all picked on him and so forth. But
Yeah.
he had these strange powers, and he could, like, when a hunter shot a deer, he put his hand on the deer who was dying, and his other hand on the hunter who shot him. So the hunter could feel exactly what the deer was feeling. That's the power that Powder had. And so our audience today was able to teleport like that and could hear from Scott Kaplan, who had his hand on BR's arm all those years, who knew what he thought, knew how he felt, close to the family. And they could hear what I say doesn't matter, but they could hear you today talk about BR and know what he was like, and know so much more than I could have told them. And they felt you because you had that hand on BR's arm all those years on Scott and BR. I thank you, my friend. Let's talk soon.
Let's do it all over again, Ted. Next time we'll make sure it all works out. But believe it or not, if you go back and watch this, you're going to find out that even without being able to hear me, you just conducted an absolutely brilliant interview. By the way, Monday on August 10th, please, for those of you that are watching and listening, please come join us. Everybody's welcome. Like I said, I've bought a ton of burgers. I hope we go through them all. We're going to raise money for the Nice Guys of San Diego because Billy Ray and Kimberly were named the Nice Guys of the Year. This is many, many months ago, and the event is going to happen in October 10th. So come on out to the American Legion in Encinitas. Parking can be hard, so you can take the train, you can take an Uber, but American Legion Encinitas, it's going to be a down home, grassroots, shake your hand, look you in the eyes, give you a big hug. And Billy Ray loved to support military charities. The American Legion is the perfect spot for it. We'll see everybody on Monday. Thank you, Teddy.
Thank you, Scott.
It's my honor.
There's a gravesite right next to my mom's back in New York. And at the bottom of the gravestone, it says, "To live in hearts we leave behind is not to die." Billy Ray, we love you. We will never forget you. Kimberly, Savannah, thank you so much for sharing him with us all these years, because he is not dead to us. He is away, and we were so privileged to have him in our lives. For Scott Kaplan, our producer, Joe Nelson, thank you so much for being with us. Apologize for the technical difficulties, as they say, don't touch your set. It's beyond our control, and it was beyond our control. Thank you, Scott Kaplan. You made my day. You made their day. We'll see you next Wednesday with another co-host. Won't be as good as Scott. How can you be as good as Scott? I'm Uncle Teddy because he said so. Take care.